The Awakening, the Revised Edition by Lilac Moon. Chapter 29. Ominous Peace. Bane's boost sounded thickly on the bridge of his ship as he entered. "Do we have any leads yet?" Bane asked. Aura shook her head. She knew her boss was getting impatient, but Skywalker had covered his family's tracks well. It had been almost a year since Anakin Skywalker had mysteriously re-emerged in the galaxy and destroyed the Emperor's prized weapon, the Death Star. A weapon capable of destroying an entire planet with one blast. Had Alderaan not suffered this fate by the weapon, Bane, nor many others, would have believed such a thing to be possible. What irritated him even more was the fact that Skywalker and his family had all but disappeared since then. But he knew that he was out there, laying low with his women and brats. Vader had doubled the bounty on Anakin's head last few months. They wanted his head as badly as Bane wanted to be the one to collect the bounty. Vader wanted them all alive too, which made the chase all the more fun. Usually. But Bane was growing tired of coming up empty with any leads. "Sorry, boss, there's still no sign on them. If they're in the Outer Rim, then we sure can't find them," Aura replied. Bane thought for a moment. "Maybe they're not in the Outer Rim at all," Bane stated. Aura scoffed. "Skywalker would be stupid to hide out on any mid or core planets. They would be surely spotted a long time ago," Aura concluded. "You forget, Aura. He's a Jedi, and a skilled one at that. Mind-tricking a few stormtroopers or force blinds is nothing to him." "No. Perhaps he's more in plain sight than we originally thought," Bane said as he walked towards the console. "What are you thinking?" Aura asked. "I'm thinking we need to go to Naboo," Bane replied. "You really think they're on Naboo? Isn't that a little obvious?" Aura asked. "So obvious that we didn't even consider it, and neither has anyone else. Skywalker is good. I'll have to give him credit. This is the most fun I've had in hunting someone in years." "Subtle course," Bane ordered. "If he's so well hidden, then how do we draw him out?" Aura asked. "He has his family with him. If we grab someone he cares about, he'll come right to us," Bane replied. Aura smirked and changed their course. Finally, they were getting some action, and possibly were close to a huge payday. Han removed his smoke goggles as he finished fusing the part into place. He sighed. It had been a long road, but the Falcon was almost completely overhauled, thanks largely to Anakin. A year ago, he had been ready to leave this place behind and move on with his life. But after the hyperdrive engine clunked out on him and Chewie, they had been forced to stay in order to fix it. By the time he bought the parts to repair it, he wouldn't have had quite enough left over to play off Jabba. Somehow Anakin had sensed this, and offered to not only help Han repair the hyperdrive, but to completely overhaul the entire ship. He agreed to pay for everything, as long as Han agreed to stick around and transport them safely to the new rebel base when the time came to go. Han had been skeptical at first, wondering where a Jedi would need to get that kind of funds. But then he remembered that Anakin's wife, being a former senator, was very well off. Han and Chewie agreed, because Lady Skywalker offered to pay them handsomely to transport them to the new location. "Looks like we're about done," Anakin said as he slid from the underbelly of the ship and tossed a grease rag aside. "Yeah, thanks again, for all the help and the funding for this," Han replied. Anakin smiled. "Don't mention it. There are few things I love more than fixing things, especially ships, and Padme's only too happy to fund my hobby, as well as to ensure we have the safest passage to the location when the time comes." Anakin replied. "Well, your wife pays well, so we'll get the job done," Han said. Truthfully, he didn't care about the money, and found himself growing close to this family over the last year. Not that he would ever admit it. And working on this ship, with the man he had secretly idolized as a child, was an experience Han would never trade. Again, not that he would ever admit it. "Well, I'm going to go clean up. See you at dinner," Anakin said, as he walked out of the ship hangar behind Veracino. Family was something Han had never had much of, and he found himself longing to continue to be part of not just any family, but this one in particular. "Okay, you can put the chocolate pieces in now, Annie," Padme instructed, as the little girl, whom she had come to love as a niece, stood on a chair beside her at the kitchen counter. Satine smiled as she watched Annie pour the candies into the bowl of cookie batter. "I'm so thankful for yours and Solar's abilities in the kitchen. I am afraid before this last year, my poor Obi-Wan was starving on my terrible cooking," Satine joked. "Well, I'd be happy to give you cooking lessons," Padme replied. "Me too, especially since my little sister has had her hands full lately," Solar replied. As she said that, they heard a cry sound on the baby monitor. "I was wondering when he'd wake up. He's really napped today," Padme said as she stopped stirring. "Aunt Solar will help you finish the cookies, sweetie," Padme told Annie as she took off her apron and went upstairs to the nursery. As she entered, she stepped to the crib and peered down at her precious 3-month-old son. She remembered the day she had told Anakin she was pregnant, and the day that he was born. Their family had grown and blossomed in the last year into everything that Anakin and Padme had always wanted. "It's okay, baby. Mummy's here," Padme cooed as she lifted him into her arms. He quieted and she laid him down on the changing table and changed his diaper, before picking him up again. She kissed his head and smiled at him, and he smiled back. Padme stood by the window and gazed out over the garden. Their son had a dark blonde fuzz atop his head, deep brown eyes, and her husband's smile, which always made her melt. They had decided to call him appropriately Jaden Anakin Skywalker. "Daddy should be almost done training for the day, so we should go and see him," Padme cooed at him as she carried him down the steps and out onto the veranda. Obi-Wan quietly observed the spar between Ahsoka and Luke as Anakin approached. "How's he doing?" Anakin asked. "He's holding his own, but I think Ahsoka is playing with him. He's come a long way, though, in the last year. The older you are, the harder and more dangerous it is to train to be a Jedi," Obi-Wan reminded. "I know, but he was born for this. You and I both know that. Besides, he has his mother's calmer demeanor, and it will serve him well as a Jedi," Anakin replied. Obi-Wan smirked. "Yes, a calmer demeanor is definitely in his favor. I would refuse to train him if he had your temper," Obi-Wan retorted. Anakin smirked. "Yeah, I know I was a handful," he admitted. "Was? I wasn't talking in the past tense, you know. You're still a pain in my rear, and you always will be." Obi-Wan pretended to complain. "But you wouldn't have me any other way," Anakin replied. Obi-Wan smirked. "I suppose not. And you are the reason that Satine and I found our way back into each other's lives, and why we have Annie. So I guess I can't kill you." Obi-Wan joked. "Like you could." Anakin joked back. "Don't be so cocky. I can still knock you around when I need to," Obi-Wan reminded. Anakin smiled and gazed up at the veranda, spotting his wife and his baby son. Padme smiled at him and he smiled back. About that time, Luke found himself flat on his back, having been defeated efficiently by Ahsoka. "Great spar, kid. You're improving," Ahsoka said as she helped him up. "Thanks. I hope so, or I'll have nothing to show for all these bruises," Luke replied, only half joking. "Bruises come with the training, and so does a hearty appetite. I'm sure dinner's almost ready, so you should go and clean up," Anakin suggested. "Yeah, I'm starved," Luke said as he went inside. "We should probably go in as well," Obi-Wan agreed. "Wait, I need to talk to you about something," Anakin told his former master. "Would this have anything to do with the dark tremors I know we've both been sensing, wouldn't it?" Obi-Wan asked. "I figured you'd been sensing them too. I don't think we're going to be safe here much longer," Anakin whispered. "I agree. We should have R2 pack the ship with everything we need, in case we have to leave in a hurry," Obi-Wan suggested. "I hate that my family and friends are in such danger because of the price on my head," Anakin said. "Your family wouldn't be safe anywhere, but with you. Do you honestly think Padme would stand being anywhere other than by your side?" Obi-Wan questioned, and Anakin smirked. No. And I'll know she'll understand if we have to leave her. R2, come here, Anakin called. The faithful little droid whirled in response. I want you and 3PO to begin packing the Millennium Falcon with everything we may need, if we have to leave in a hurry. Food stores, clothes for everyone, and double on all the baby supplies. Anakin ordered. R2 whirled affirmatively and rolled off to begin his task his master had requested of him. Obi-Wan patted him on the shoulder. Let's put this out of our minds for the moment and go and enjoy our families. No matter what may threaten us, we'll be ready to protect them, Obi-Wan assured. Anakin nodded and followed him inside. Padme smiled as he joined her on the veranda. As he approached, he took her in his arms and kissed her softly. Jaden cooed to get his attention, and he smiled before kissing the baby's head. Padme sought his lips again, capturing them in a passionate kiss. It's only been a few hours since I saw you, but I missed you, Padme said. I missed you too, he replied. Both of you, he added, as he wrapped his arms around her. She rested her head on his shoulder as they gazed out at the ocean. After a few moments of silence, Padme spoke again. Credit for your thoughts, handsome? She asked. He smiled. Just thinking about the family we've created in the last year. We were blessed with Jaden, and we're so close to Luke and Leia now, even though we were but strangers a year ago, Anakin replied. But we've always been in their hearts, even if they didn't know it. Leia's dreams prove that, Padme replied. I know. Bail was a good father to her, and I'm grateful that she had him. But it makes me feel really good inside that the Force saw the impart to us and bring us together like that, even if I was in a coma and can't remember. Still. He trailed off, a troubled look on his face. What is it, my love? Padme prodded. It's silly, he replied. I'm sure it's not, she responded. Bail was a good friend. He raised my little princess into a beautiful young woman when I was unable to. But she's still my daughter, Anakin said. Of course she is. Leia adores you too, and you've both grown so close, Padme replied. I know, and that's why it hurts every time I hear one of the Alliance members call her Leia Organa. It's like a knife to my heart. She's Leia Organa Skywalker now, but they won't acknowledge it, Anakin said. I'm sure they've just forgotten, and they're not used to calling her that yet, Padme replied. Anakin shook his head. If I wasn't Force sensitive, then maybe I could believe that. But I'm afraid many are not too fond of me, from what I've felt, Anakin said. Padme looked horrified. Well, they should be. You're a hero, and I have no idea that any of my colleagues were looking upon you with contempt. Now that I know, I'll be able to set the record straight at our newest Holo meeting, and tell Clovis where he can go, since I know he's the source, Padme ranted. Anakin smiled. I appreciate that, Angel. But you don't have to do that, Anakin told her. You're a hero, and you should be revered as such, Padme said. I'm also the man that illegally married one of their brightest and most knowledgeable colleagues, he reminded. If they think that, then they can all collectively go to hell along with Rush Clovis. What we have is love, and most certainly not illegal. And even if it was, then I'd be happy to be known as an outlaw if it meant being with you, she said, making him smile. I love you, he said. She smiled back. I love you too, she replied, as their lips met in a passionate kiss. Jaden made his presence known with a loud call. They smiled at him. Sorry, little man. Mummy and Daddy didn't mean to ignore you, Anakin told him. He's probably hungry. I should go in and feed him before dinner, she replied. Anakin nodded as they went inside together. Anakin watched her from the nursery door as she cradled their baby and sang softly to him. His eyes were heavy, and he felt warm in his mother's arms, and safe with his father's protective presence enveloping both of them and his mother. Padme gently placed him in his crib and gazed down at him for a moment. Anakin joined her as they watched him sleep for several moments, just like they did every night. They slowly retreated towards the door, as R2 tucked himself into the corner for his nightly watch over the youngest Skywalker. Padme picked up the baby monitor and slowly closed the door as they went to their room next door. I could watch him sleep all night, Padme said as she sat down at her vanity and began brushing out her hair. I know. Me too, he replied. Angel, I need to talk to you about something, Anakin said. Jaden is asleep. We should play now and talk later, she tempted. As much as I would enjoy that, it's important, Anakin said. What is it? She asked. Obi-Wan and I have both felt uneasiness in the Force. Like we might not be safe here for much longer. I'm afraid we're going to have to move on soon, though we're not sure where to yet. Anakin explained. Padme nodded. I understand, and I knew this would come eventually, Padme replied. I know. I just hate that you and the kids are in any kind of danger because of me. This is our home, and we'll soon be driven from it again because of some money-hungry bounty hunters, Anakin spat. My love, home for us is wherever you are. We love it here, but we love you more. As long as we're together, everything will be fine, and we'll be able to return here someday, Padme told him as she caressed his face. He smiled. Somehow I knew you'd make this all better for me, he said, making her smile. You do realise that there is a possibility that we'll need to leave in one hell of a hurry, right? He asked. She nodded. Of course, which is why I'm sure you had R2 pack the Falcon full of all the things we might need if that possibility arises, she replied. He smiled. You know me so well, he said. Better than anyone, she added. Now, let's play, she suggested. Bane felt the ship exit hyperspace, and he looked up. The blue-green jewel of a planet known as Naboo filled the view window, and he smirked. Tag her down, Aura. It's almost payday, he rasped. The former Jedi smirked, and began the ship's descent to the beautiful, peaceful planet. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. I like that chapter, not much to comment on. Bane, of course, is like a dog with a bone. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day now, whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.